Jay Sano without intro music. Jay Sano with intro music. Intro music remix. Jay Sano 19, Jay Sano 19. Jay Sano 19, Jay Sano 19. Hello everybody and welcome back. It is Jeff again coming to you from the Mindcrack server, and what I am doing, actually I should probably move some of these up to my little base area and kind of put them in the corner for the time being, just to make sure they can continue to do their work while I continue to do my work. But I've done a little bit of things off camera, very little, but I've done some things off. Oh, look, a zombie. I've done some things off camera in order to try to get this thing shored up a little bit. Basically, I came down in that one area that Creeper was hanging out in, and I took care of him. And it was not a cave, but it was an opening that went out right to where my stuff was. So it's actually going to make my safe fall route pretty perfect, because look at this. Look where I'm at now. And if I can make a safe fall through here and then just make a little opening out there, I think that'll work. Now this, I had a suggestion on this, which I like the suggestion, but also an interesting thing happened to me over here. I had water source blocks right here on this row, and they kind of turned into ice, which I was not anticipating happening. That, oh no, I've lost all that stuff down there. I was not anticipating that they would turn into ice because of the biome that I'm in, but nonetheless, it really doesn't matter because they still continue to bring out water even when you take the ice block away. And I still touched the ice block away as well. It continued to bring out water, but somebody suggested that I make this one more deep, hell, maybe even two more deep, and it'll make it look more like it's coming out of the mountain in a cool way. So I like that idea. So we're gonna go with that, and I think I might actually make this more of a straight drop off for a while, so it's this just majestic waterfall, and put random strategically placed blocks in the middle so that it looks like the water's kind of going over a boulder as it heads that way. So let's take a look at what this looks like. And I think if I do this right, I can end up making an infinite source block down here. So I do that, so I don't have to keep running back and forth. I think. I cannot guarantee that that is going to be the case, but I'm pretty sure that's the way it works. But I figured, since they don't pour into each other at all, actually it will not create that infinite source block I was hoping that it would. So I guess we're going to be doing some back and forth for a little bit. But I think in the meantime, what I was going to do is I wanted to give you guys some fun stories from the emergency department, just because I've been working the last couple nights back in the emergency department, and I forgot about just some of the entertaining things that happen there. Now let me preface this with anybody who's going to be a nurse or a doctor or an EMT even, like, I don't know, it's from the outset, anybody currently right now, or anybody who is one of those professions, especially in like the emergency department or in any type of emergency scenario, if you have already gone through it and do it now, you're going to understand completely what I'm talking about. And if you're trying to get into it, this might be a little bit of a shock for you. And trust me, I urge you to completely fulfill that dream. I love what I do. I don't dislike it in the least. It's just, it changes you in a way just based on what you see and what you deal with on a regular basis. It changes you a little bit. You become a little more hardened, I guess would be the word, to some things that you would initially think like, oh no, I have to completely, like, this person's in pain. Obviously, if they say they're in pain, they must be in pain, and I have to make sure I take care of their pain. And I know it sounds harsh to say off the top of my head, or this person's in the emergency department because they're hungry. So obviously, if they're in the emergency department, they must be hungry, and therefore we should take care of their hunger. You definitely become hardened to things, because in a scenario where somebody, the average person, goes to the emergency department, it doesn't matter how small I think the problem is in comparison to what maybe they do, but to them, it's going to be the most excruciating, worst thing ever, because that's why they're there. That's why they're in the department, because to them, it is the worst possible thing. I don't know why I'm trying to fight this water current while doing this. I just need to block it off. And of course, I took the blocks out of my bar. Is this an area that's going to have me? Nope. And of course, I only grabbed 7. Ugh. Come on, buddy. Get in there. Because that should keep my water block secure while still allowing me to somewhat clear them out. Ugh, there we go. Oh, man. That was a little rough. Is that actually going to work? Do I need to do this one more back? But either way, it changes. And you'll understand what I mean when you get into that line of work. And anybody who's already in that line of work, they understand. To somebody, their problem is the most severe problem ever. I could not count the number of times that I've had people come into, like when I'm triaging, people come into the triage booth, and I'll be like, what are you here for today? And they'll be like, oh, my stomach hurts. Okay, how long has it been giving you pain for? A week. Okay, so what made you come into the emergency department today to get it dealt with? Oh, it hurt worse and I haven't eaten in a week. As they sit there and eat a sub that they bought down at the cafeteria or over at the Blimpies that we used to have at our, on our campus. In the triage booth, they'd be sitting there with just a straight face, eating a sub, telling you that they haven't eaten in over a week because their stomach hurt that bad. And they came to the emergency department on that particular day because it was so much worse, as they sit there telling you the story while eating in front of you. I mean, I cannot count the number of times that has happened. That's kind of become, it's par for the course at this point in my career. It happens so often, and I know a lot of people are probably like, no, you're exaggerating a little bit. No, I'm actually not. I will tell you, I worked in fast food for many, many, many years. And for those who don't know, I worked at McDonald's for 9 years of my life, both before college, during high school, during college, post-college. I worked at McDonald's for a very long time. People get angry about their food, and nothing is different when it comes to the hospital setting. The most angry people I have ever dealt with in the ICU, in the emergency department, in anything to do with healthcare, is always related to food. And I know you're going to laugh and think that that's also an exaggeration, but trust me, it is not. It is not an exaggeration at all, and anybody who's in that particular area understands. But like I said, that stuff has become like par for the course at this point. It's not something that really shocks me or baffles me anymore like it used to. It definitely used to. The first time that I was in a triage booth triaging somebody, and I said, they're sitting there laughing, telling jokes, having a good old time talking to me, especially the regulars who know me because they're there all the time for different problems. And when you say, how would you rate your pain on a scale of 0 to 10? Oh yeah, it's definitely a 10. As they like chomp on whatever food that they're eating at the time or whatnot. And I keep bringing this back to food just because that's one of the common things. It's not always related to food. I have people on their cell phones constantly kind of like, and they'll be talking on it as they walk into the triage booth, and then they'll like tip it to the side and be like, they'll talk on the phone real quick and be like, hold on a second. They'll be like, yeah, I'm here because my abdomen hurts. They usually don't say abdomen. I'm here because my stomach hurts. And they'll put the phone back up and be like, yeah, don't worry about that. I'm in the triage booth. And they just keep talking like it's absolutely nothing. That is also something that just happens on an absolute regular basis. And how bad's your pain? Scale of 0 to 10. Oh, it's a 10. But let me clarify the scale, sir. 10 being the worst pain you've ever experienced in your entire life, like equating it to being crushed by a car. Yeah, it's definitely a 10. Maybe an 11. Very common as well. Those things, I can't say they don't bother me because they still bother me to the extent that I think people, not because of people themselves, but because places like JCO, which is like the Joint Commission, and they do a lot of like the medical grading and things like that, they really have all these scales based on the fact of like reimbursements and things like that. And one of the reimbursements not only is patient satisfaction scores, but pain ratings. And they straight up say pain is what a patient tells you their pain is. And I understand that. I completely understand that. But when they put reimbursement numbers behind that, and you can't really help somebody's pain who is physically looking like they're in absolutely zero pain, and you give them all the narcotics in the world that they could possibly ask for, and they still continue to sit there and tell you it's a 10, and therefore you no longer get reimbursed because of the fact that, you know, not that I deal with the billing side, but I mean, it's a big problem in hospital administration, that, you know, it's kind of difficult to deal with those things. But as I said, those things, normal stuff that happens all the time. But I got to tell you, sometimes some funny things happen that, even though I think I've seen it all, obviously haven't seen it all because I see something new every day. And I was working the other day, and oh, I can't get this bed. I wanted this bed. I was working the other day, and oh, am I going this way? And we have a lot of, let's call them intoxicated individuals, like ETOH for alcohol. So a lot of drunks that come in because they're homeless, they have nowhere else to go, or not even because of that, because people party a little bit too hard, they go pass out in the street somewhere, somebody calls 911, they go to the hospital, they have to. You know, the homeless issue is a big problem, but I understand that one a little bit more. We have our regulars that come in there. We know most of them by name. We'll take care of them for the night until, you know, they can get on a bus in the morning and get out of there, or whatever they need to do. But I had this guy the other night, and it wasn't even my person. He was just on my team. So the team of nurses that I was working with, there was 4 of us on this team, and he was in our area, and he was in the hallway on a stretcher, and anybody who walked by, he would like yell something at them and like demand something. Hey, give me a sandwich, you know. Hey, I'm in pain. I need something for pain. And it wasn't even that coherent because he was so drunk. You know, you think you've seen people that are drunk before, man. Just go to an emergency department certain nights of the week, and you will see some drunkenness that you didn't think that people could live through, but it's because their bodies are so used to functioning on that much alcohol that, you know, to them it's absolutely like almost a necessity and a requirement to have, you know, some alcohol in their system to function and survive. But I walked by at one point, and he was screaming at the top of his lungs. Like he would be in a deep sleep for a little while, and then he'd just wake up just screaming at the top of his lungs like everything that he needed was the most important thing that ever existed, ever, anywhere. And he just starts screaming so loud. He was like, nurse, nurse, which is everybody in the hospital asks for a nurse. Nobody ever yells for a doctor, by the way, which I find funny because that means even the people who are in the hospital, the drunks, the people who are actually legitimately there, the people who abuse the system to get narcotics, everybody who's in the hospital, when they need something, they will yell for a nurse and not a doctor. And that is 100% truth because they know better. They know who does all the work at the hospital. But that's besides the point. But anyways, he starts screaming for a nurse, and I happened to be walking by, and I was like, what do you need, sir? And he goes, urinal! Urinal, give me a urinal. And when drunk people ask for a urinal, you want to give them a urinal pretty quickly because you'd rather they have a urinal to pee in as opposed to peeing all over themselves, which you end up inevitably having to clean up, or all over somebody else, or all over the floor, or what it may be. Yes, it's very graphic. I do clean up a lot of shit and piss for a living. That's kind of what the job of a nurse has slowly turned into. Not really. It's just one of the things that we have to do. Yes, I do clean up a lot of bodily fluids on a regular basis. So it was something, I will tell you, it was something that I definitely thought I was not going to be able to handle. I never before would have thought that I could touch somebody else's excrements and be okay with it. But actually, when you're in the job setting and it comes with the job, it's actually not that big of a deal. So anybody who's afraid of that going into nursing or whatever, don't worry about it. It's really not a big deal. Not only do you get used to it extremely fast, but it's You ever cleaned up somebody's, vomit at a party? That's horrible. I hate doing that. I lived in a fraternity house for a few years as well. I cleaned up a lot of vomit, and that made me like gag every time I did it. It's just a completely different mentality and mindset. So either way, he asked for his urinal, and the second he's screaming about his urinal, I'm like, I better get this man a urinal, because like I said, I don't want to be cleaning this guy up or having to help somebody else clean this guy up later, because he's gone all over himself. And I'm walking by, and he's just one of those people that he yells for one thing, but then he just keeps mumbling and kind of talking to himself, and you can't really tell what he's saying all the time, but you can make out a few words here and there. And he was mumbling something, and then he just yells again as I start walking by. He's like, "Hurry! I'm holding it!" And I was like, I'm glad he's holding it. Like, I want him to hold it until I get him this urinal. But then I actually examined the situation a little bit more and realized that he didn't mean he was holding it because he really needed to go and he was holding in his urine. He meant he was holding it because he was sitting there in the middle of the hallway with his penis out in his hand, urinating straight up into the air. But he was on his side, so it didn't really go up. It went to the side, which is why I didn't see it, because I wasn't on that side of him, thank God. But arcing over the stretcher, just pooling up on the floor, yelling for his urinal, which obviously he knew he had to go to the bathroom. He just unfortunately couldn't, quote-unquote, hold it long enough. But trust me, he let me know that he was holding it, and he really meant he was holding it, because, I mean, it was just there, boom, in his hands, in the middle of the hallway. And I think the funniest thing, when I looked at him, and I just looked at him, and I was like, "Yes, sir, you are." And I walked over and got a urinal, which really didn't end up making a difference because he was done by that point. And I was kind of baffled with myself. I don't know why I just tried to go up that way. I was just kind of baffled with myself that I didn't notice the fact that he had his penis out in his hand the entire time. And granted, like I said, it was on the other side of where I was at, so I didn't see it. But the funniest thing was there were some other people on a stretcher directly past him, on that side of him, who were sitting there waiting for a bed placement because we were really, really full in the hospital. And luckily they didn't notice at first until he started making such a scene. And I said, "Yes, sir, you are." And then they realized what was going on. They didn't even notice it because he was, I don't know if he was, you can say he was doing it subtly. I think what gave it away is actually he was holding it in his hand. And the second he yelled, "I'm holding it," he started peeing, which then I saw the arc just kind of going, psh. I mean, it looked like this waterfall, like, psh, like down. So, yeah. Crazy things happen in the emergency department. Trust me. It's definitely, I can't say I've never seen people pee all over themselves there before. I've never had somebody yell to me how much they were holding it, because they were actually holding it, though. So you definitely see something new every day. I got plenty of ER stories. I know Guude's very mad at me for an ER story I told him once. He asked me what the craziest thing I ever saw in the emergency department was. And I said, I don't know if it's the craziest, but my last day, the last patient that I triaged was actually there because he had intractable hiccups, like hiccups he just could not get rid of. And I asked him how long he'd had them, and he said he'd had them for months, and he just couldn't take it anymore. And the look on this man's face was of bloody death. He wanted to die. You could tell he wanted to die, that it was just that horrible to him, these hiccups were, that he couldn't take it anymore, and that's why he finally went to the emergency department. Not that there's much you can really do about hiccups, but there's a couple cures that you can try. But that was the last patient I had ever triaged before being back in the emergency. Yeah, I can't say that anymore. It wasn't the last patient I ever triaged because I've triaged plenty more since then. But back before I moved on to the ICU. And I told Guude that story, and Guude was sitting there like his eyes are like open wide, and he's like, "So what happened? What do you do about that? Like, this dude is in so much like agony and pain about hiccups." And my response to him was, "Oh, I don't know. It was the last patient I ever triaged, and it was my shift was over, so I went home." And he brought it up to me at PAX East. He was like, "That was the worst story you ever told me. Like, I can't get over that story because I just want to know what happened to that guy. And you ended it with, I don't know. And honestly, to this day, I still have absolutely no idea. The emergency department, you gotta love it. It definitely takes a mindset. I think that looks pretty cool. I think I need to clear out a little bit of this hill so you can kind of see the waterfall trickle down a lot over more of this area. I think it would look a lot better, so I might work on doing that. But I do kind of like the slight progress that this little hideaway in the hills is making. I mean, if you're gonna make a little home that you escape to, you want a good one. People don't just own a second house somewhere for no reason. They own a second house because it's on a lake or it's on the beach or something like that. So I want this to be the same. It might not be on a lake or a beach, but it's going to be on a waterfall. That's what we're going to have going on. So anyways, guys, Minecraft, Jeff, emergency department, waterfall. Thanks for watching. I will see you guys next time.